Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Contour Community Meeting. Today is June 1st, 2021. If you haven't already, please add your name to the attendee list there so we can see who's joining and who's not. Today we have a very short and brief status update, but it is a release update. So let's dive into it. Who wants to talk about the 1.16 release?
I think Daniel was the one who cut it, but since he's not here, I guess I will. There is actually a change I think we need to make to these change notes. But yeah, the big changes are we did some more gateway API changes, gateway class support and TLS route. And the CA is no longer ignored when downstream skip verifies true. So that's if you configure certificates, then when you client certificates, I mean, you can have Contour, you can tell Contour don't validate the client certificate, just accept any client certificate, and then with the intent that you can pass that on to the external auth server if you're presuming you're using one. Obviously, if you're not using one, it's not a great idea because it's a huge security hole, and completely obviates the need to have client certificates. But if you need it, then you really need it. So yeah, this one's been added. And thanks to Jonas for swapping us over to Hugo. Yeah, all of the whoops for that. Thanks. It was a very big PR. Nice work. I think we've squashed most of the migration bugs now. And if there is anything left, please feel free to log issues or mention it in Slack, and we'll get on to fixing it up. So one of the things that we probably missed a little bit on noting is that in the deprecation and removal notices, we've removed the experimental service APIs flag. No big deal, that one. But the big one is that we removed support for V1 Beta 1. Now, this actually means that the statement that we have in our readme.md that Contour works with Kubernetes 1.16 and after is no longer true. Contour won't run on 1.18 and less versions of Kubernetes. You need 1.19 to run it now because that's when Ingress V1 went GA. Yeah, I'm going to do a PR today to just update that, and I'll just swap that around so that there's a bigger, that we call that out in a bit bigger way, since it is a pretty breaking change. I think the last thing that I think we should add here is that in the release notes, each time we do a client go upgrade, each time we do a release, I think we need to do supported Kubernetes versions. We need to take the information that's in the matrix and just put it in the changelog each time we release. I don't think it's too big a deal, but it just means that it's very clear for people. Yes, and thanks for highlighting, Jonas. We got some great PRs from Jeffrey Klein, Kartiki Pandey, and Pierre-Yves LA, I think. My French pronunciation is not great, but yeah, thank you to everyone who's contributed to this release. We're always really grateful for all your contributions, whether they be issues, code, documentation, asking questions in Slack, anything. We're very grateful for it. So yeah, that's a quick run through of the release. A couple of things that we could do a bit better. I think, Jonas, do you want to just quickly show the new website, please?
Yeah, for sure. So I just wanted to say as well, so there are a bunch of documentation tagged issues. We did this for we also tagged them good first issues. So getting started issues, we wanted to add a bunch of good first issues for people who wants to get involved with the documentation piece of things. We also have the CNCF Contour docs, technical docs assessment that we're going through. So we'll be adding more and more of these docs issues. And then in about 2 weeks, mid-June, we'll send out an email talking about the working group as well. So the and then we'll take, I think it's the June 17th office hours. We're going to kind of take over that one for technical doc writer focus. So for anyone who's an open source tech writer and wants to get involved, June 17th, we'll host a special office hours for anyone who's interested. So yeah, the website got a new revamp. So the main crux that we had with the old website was that when we were writing documentation or anything that was related to the site, looking at the guides, looking at the getting started information, whenever we updated things and we wanted to see the live preview locally, it took roughly 40 to 45 seconds to build before we actually saw the change. That was because we were running on Jekyll and we were rebuilding a bunch of pages every time we did a simple change. But now with Hugo, it's under a second and you will see the change appear live in front of your eyes. So super nice. And we also got a slew of features that we can utilize as well when moving over to Hugo. So really nice. We also added some really good stuff around the documentation pages. We have a now we have a TOC over here to the right. So for longer documents like the fundamentals here, we can easily go to specific pieces of the documentation using this. There is an issue right now with the edit button, and that is linked in one of the Good First issues because it's actually linking back to the wrong URL. But we're looking to have the edit button work, of course, so you can just click edit and make some changes if you want, or report an issue on this specific page. So you can see that, hey, there's an issue, which is pretty neat. The docs as well. Oh, it also resizes properly. So now if you want to read it widely, you can do that, or if you want to have it more narrow, you can do that too. Before it was stuck at one size and it was not a good size for it. So yeah, much better. We also revamped the resources page where we have, instead of just a list of things, more viewable videos and things, and also revamped the community page to be a little more pleasing to the eye.
Thanks heaps, Jonas. Yeah, I think it looks really great. Definitely looking forward to seeing what some technical writers can do when they dig into it.
Likewise.
Is there anything we have to do to get the search to work for the new release? If you go to docs and then search now, it'll say like it's not ready. Like just type in whatever. But if you go to like the 115.1, it'll work. So I'm not sure if there's something that has to like get kicked to do that. I don't know what drives that, I guess.
So yeah, if that was updated a couple of days ago, that should have kicked in already. It should have already seen the versions there. So let me dig into that.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, so I think someone opened an issue on that on Slack or something, and then I forgot to ping you. But yeah, 115 will work. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I think that has to do with the sitemap. So I know we're investigating the sitemap for others already. So yeah, let me dig into that.
Cool, thanks.
I wouldn't be surprised if we've just missed the update sitemap setting as part of the release.
Might be.
Yeah, I put a quick note in there, Jonas, in the status updates about the stuff. Please feel free to fix my writings.
Perfect.
Okay, so we are out of agenda items. I think that does anyone want to give like a quick update on some of the stuff we've been working on? I'm thinking maybe Steve and Sanjay, some of the stuff we've been doing about testing and upgrade testing and all that sort of stuff. If you could just give us like super highlights in like a couple of minutes, that would be really good.
Yeah, I can start and then Sanjay can jump in. I've been talking about this for a number of community meetings. So we've been working on migrating our integration tests, which are kind of end-to-end tests of Contour running in a cluster, into Go. And so we've basically completed that at this point, and we've deleted the old suite of integration tests. And so at this point, all of those EDEs are in Go. They're using the Ginkgo framework. We definitely have some more improvements in mind there, but that migration has been done. And then I'll let Sanjay talk about the upgrade stuff he's been working on.
Yeah, so related to that, kind of using the same framework that Steve K set up, we have a pretty simple upgrade test suite. Basically, there's a make target, make upgrade, and it will deploy a kind cluster, deploy some version of Contour release version that you want to upgrade from, and then upgrade to the kind of like the current version of the code that you're on, given a Contour image that gets loaded into the kind cluster. So that should, right now it tests that routability of an application that's running throughout the upgrade, make sure that it's routable before the upgrade and after, and we're planning on expanding that to make sure that there's some level of routability throughout the upgrade, and possibly even that when you add a new HTTP route or ingress or HTTP proxy, its config is reflected within a certain amount of time throughout that upgrade. So trying to bring some more like maybe establish some service level agreements, SLAs, or SLO, sorry, and have some defined level of support, at least in that simple upgrade scenario. Obviously, in a larger cluster with more volume, we'll have to consider how we conform to those sorts of objectives. But that's sort of what the future of that upgrade testing suite hopefully will be like. So we can have more confidence and more robust upgrades of Contour, and then also with the operator as well, try to use that same upgrade testing and make sure that everything is being updated in a as close to zero downtime as possible within reason.
Yeah,
Sounds
thanks.
awesome.
Yeah. I'm certainly hopeful that one day we can have a test suite, whether it be with the operator or just in the controller that validates that. Yeah, so we can confidently say yes, Contour's upgrade is a zero downtime upgrade because we've tested it. Yeah, that would be an ideal place to be.
And I think besides that, I think we have talked about also using and maybe not on every single commit or every single PR, but using a larger installation of Contour with maybe many apps running in the cloud, and doing some sort of validation against that as well. So that could also come into the upgrade testing, scale testing a little bit in CI as well. So something to look forward to there too.
Yeah, absolutely. If we could, if eventually we can have a standard install of the release version of the latest release of Contour, then it'd be good that part of the last round of release tests are upgrading that release version, like post upgrade or something like that, just to validate that everything is good. That will give us a signal that things are good. So thanks guys for updates. I really appreciate it. I think there probably is one thing that's worth us discussing in the community meeting today, and that's about our supported Kubernetes versions. So as I mentioned earlier, we did have an issue this time where we have down that it's tested with that Contour works with versions 1.16 plus of Kubernetes. So I think that Sanjay's opened a PR. Thanks, Sanjay. I didn't say that earlier. Just to tidy things up to make sure that we now make it clear that that we require Kubernetes 1.19 or later. And the reason that we do that is because we test those versions so we can guarantee that they work. I am in favor of us limiting the number of Kubernetes versions we do precisely for this reason, so that we can, move things out when they're deprecated in a reasonable time frame. And that's why we follow the upstream support model. I think that it does suck that that there are now versions of Kubernetes running on major cloud providers that the latest version of Contour will not work with. But I don't think that I think that it's important that personally that Contour sticks with the with the latest supported Kubernetes. So does anyone else have any thoughts on this? That's my thoughts, but does anyone else have any thoughts?
The only thing I can think of is, when we have this long-term support release, right? Let's say a long-term support release. At the time it was released, it still supported 118, but then 118 dropped out of favor, right? What are our applications for 118 on that particular release? Do we still have to support it, or?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that we've got to answer for having like longer support for Contour versions. Right now we have effectively, although it's not ideal, we have basically 1 month support for Contour versions because we have one release support for Contour versions. We try to make sure, as I said, we make sure that we don't change our Kubernetes version except when a new version of Kubernetes comes out. So we keep the Kubernetes versions in sync with the upstream supported Kubernetes versions. And now that the upstream Kubernetes versions have changed to three versions per year, then that should mean that we will be giving 1 year of Kubernetes support for Contour, regardless of how many Contour versions we support, because we'll only be changing the Kubernetes support on the Kubernetes support boundary, not on the other ones. However, if we do have like longer term support Contour releases, then obviously we won't be able to drop support for a Kubernetes version until that Contour the highest Contour version that is in support. So the lowest Contour version that's in support needs to support the lowest. We need to support the lowest version of Kubernetes that the lowest version of Contour supports. Sorry, that's a complicated way to say something that's not that complicated. And so so that's why it's one of the things that we need to think very carefully about with having a longer support cadence for Contour, is that if we're going to do that, then that plays into how many releases with Contour we support, how much we backport, all of those questions. And so that's why it's just important to think. I do agree that we need to change Contour support policy. Having only 1 month of actual support is not great. And we need to have we need to change that, but we need to spend a bit of time on understanding what happens in the happy path, like what happens in a normal thing, and then what happens at the boundary conditions as well. What happens when Contour comes out, when the version of Kubernetes hasn't rolled over, but the version of Contour has, or something like that. Like, do we end up stuck supporting a version of Kubernetes that's not supported, and we end up having to do N-3 versions of Kubernetes testing instead of just N-2 like we do now. And yeah, so I think those are very valid questions that we need to consider. Again, I think that it's very much worthwhile to have a longer term, like a longer support window for Contour. I don't want to say LTS because people have very definite expectations around what LTS is, and it's greater than a year. I don't see a world in which we would really provide like greater than a year support for Contour for some time. Like, I don't think that that's viable for without a lot more people. You need to have a couple of people probably dedicated to just backporting things, which is a pretty sucky job. Thoughts from anyone else?
Yeah, just a clarification. So let's say if we had an LTS release now in May, are you saying that we would require all future Contour releases until we have another LTS support that version of Kubernetes that's available out right now?
Yeah, well, it seems like that would be the obvious. If we're going to support a version of Contour for a longer time, then we would also need to make sure that we can support that version of Kubernetes as well.
Or upgrade services and everything later on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons. That's one of the things we need to carefully think about when we're picking how long we support Contour for. Is what happens when Kubernetes versions roll in and out of support as well. Sanjay, I think you were going to say something.
Oh, I mean, I think, yeah, there's like a few variables and one, like, it does kind of suck that GKE is just like kind of broken, right? With like the latest Contour. It's not necessarily our fault, but it's also like we are moving maybe more aggressively than other people would. So, I mean, there's a few like different options, I guess, that we could have. I mean, we can stick with what we have now, which is relatively aggressive, but it's easier for us. We could like sort of lag a little bit and not move to the latest Kubernetes version for a little time, and maybe like, I don't know, maybe do the N-3 for a little bit of time, like give a grace period. We could like I don't know, expand to N-3 always or something like that. I don't know. Or yeah, I mean, there's other options, and maybe we also like do a major version bump if we drop some, like if we remove something in Contour that is legitimately gonna make it stop working on a version of Kubernetes. I don't know if that like makes sense as well, but yeah, there's other things we could do. I don't know what people feel like is the best. I feel like it's easiest for us to move fast, but that might not necessarily be the best for everyone, as we saw. But yeah.
Yeah, I think. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I agree that right now we have chosen this because it was easiest for us, right? That is sort of what things come down to, is that, yeah, we've chosen this because it was easiest for us as the developers at the time, and especially when we had a smaller team. However, like, we want to be a more operationally friendly tool than we currently are. And so part of that is being better about how much we force people to upgrade and how much support we give people when they haven't upgraded. So I think, as I said, it's really important to have these discussions, but we do need to make sure that we, like, at the end of the day, this is, the support stuff is a product decision, like we can all agree on, but we got to have a firm direction in mind as to, if we're going to change things, like, what are we trying to achieve by changing them, and how will we measure whether or not that's achieved? I think, we got to be careful that we're not, that we're not too beholden to any particular provider's, minimum Kubernetes version as well. I think the big cloud providers for their stable release are very seldom going to be running an actual supported Kubernetes release, I think, for a while at least, until the rate of churn slows down in core Kubernetes. And so it's very likely that this situation will arise again when we do removals, that the stable version on a particular cloud provider is actually out of upstream support for Kubernetes. And so if we only support upstream, then we won't work against them because some API has been removed or some behavior has changed or something like that. I think that the proximal thing that we can do, the thing that we can do right now that will help with this, is that we need to be more, I think we all need to be a bit more diligent when we're doing the code removals, like the V1 beta 1 removal, that we have a think about minimum versions and stuff like that when we do that sort of thing. There's no shade at you, Sanjay. You did the right thing by removing this. We had discussed that we were going to do this. We all agreed. We did it. But it's on me as much as it is anyone. That I didn't think about what removing V1 beta 1 would do for Kubernetes support as well. So I think that it's just something we all need to keep in mind, is that when we remove code, we need, or when we change versions of CIDs or resources that we talk to, we need to consider how that works. I think that's one of the things that's really great about the Gateway APIs is that because it's a CRD, it's versioned separately to Kubernetes, so it doesn't matter. As long as you're running greater than 116 with CRD v1, it doesn't matter what version of the Gateway APIs Contour requires. That's not tied to the Kubernetes version. That's never going to be the case for the core objects, though.
It's not just GKE, right? Oops. It's not just GKE, right? It's like all the major cloud providers are probably, they don't have the capacity to test, really. So I think
So
we'll probably,
they all, I did check yesterday, they all have support for greater than 118 on some level. Like it might be on a rapid channel or a, or something,
Right.
but quite a couple of them don't have, they have versions of Kubernetes available that do not, that Contour now does not support. And so I think that the point that Steve S raised on the issue that's quite fair is that if we're going to do something that's going to break people for a version, we need to, that's going to move up our minimum version, we need to make sure we think about that. And the things that are most likely to move up our minimum Kubernetes version are removing support for particular resource versions or other sort of removals / deprecations, other things that are most likely to change the minimum Kubernetes version. And that's what we've got to keep an eye out for, I think.
okay. Yeah, I think we probably could have done this a little better, but I think, we'll just keep it as it is. And since they are slowing it down to 3 releases a year, I think that gap will close down, right? Pretty soon. But for now, they have to use 119 or higher.
And,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
maybe part of our strategy for if we do start testing and bump a new Kubernetes version, if we do a survey of cloud providers and say, oh, well, our minimum can't really be this because it wouldn't really make that much sense like in the future. Because right now we've just kind of been blindly going, all right, n plus, add 1 to n, add like to the min, add 1 to the max, add 1 to the min without really looking anywhere else. So maybe we can do a survey of whatever and see if that.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long to find the sort of supported Kubernetes versions for each of the big 3 cloud providers. And obviously for VMware and OpenShift, we just need to check which ones our various distros support as well to make sure that Contour fits in there. So
Yeah, VMware is always using the latest.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Daniel, so I'm not sure how much when you dropped in, but yeah, we were just talking about how how when we removed Ingress v1 beta 1 from the controller, that put a hard version dependency on Kubernetes 119 where Ingress v1 became GA. So we were just talking about how we could do that better next time. You got any thoughts there? But I know that we're over time as well, so let's keep it cool.
And not off the top of my head, did see some of the Slack conversation go on, and I guess lesson learned, and yeah, nothing specific that I could think of.
Yeah, no problems, man. Sorry to put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, as we are now sort of 3 minutes over time, I'll probably call this one done. Thank you, everyone, as always, for coming. Thanks for watching this on a recording, if that's what you're doing. And we will see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.